Hey, 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 welcome back.
We back at it again.
True love in the house.
Yes. So what we saying? What's love got to do with it? Got to do with it.
Oh, we are so excited today, y'all. We have a special guest in the house.
We've been waiting for this one.
Special occasion because it's our very first special guest.
Yes.
Welcome to the show, Miss Chrissy.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Ooh, of course. We're so excited to have you here.
Two of my favorite ladies.
Yes, and you're one of our favorites, too.
Yeah, we love you, too.
I know. We got you in here because we're about to talk about this little juicy topic that we have about religion, politics, and relationships.
I cannot wait.
I mean, and what they got to do with each other.
I mean, everything. Right?
Everything.
Always.
I mean, is love the number one thing that's important in a relationship?
I don't know. Is it?
I don't know. You tell me.
I mean...
Can relationships survive without love?
No.
No.
Absolutely
okay, so it's
not.
definitely important.
It is.
You need it.
It is, but can it survive if people are on two different spectrums when it comes to religion? Can one be maybe Christian and one be Muslim?
I don't know. Those are two very... Oh, those are deep. I don't know. I
know, speaking from experience, it's hard. I've known couples who have divorced because they're not the same religion, and the mom wants to teach her religion, the dad wants to teach her, his religion,
right?
And they cannot compromise because they're so strong in their religious beliefs that it just doesn't work out.
Well, were they those religions when they got married?
Correct.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good
yes.
one.
See,
Yeah.
so I don't know. I feel like we get in the habit of collecting red flags.
Uh-oh.
Like,
not them red flags.
I feel like Steve Harvey said it. Like, we cannot get in the business of that. Like, so you have to decide whether when you start dating, what's your purpose? Are you just out for a good time?
Yes.
Right.
Or are you ready to be committed? Like, start a family, start something.
Right.
Whether that's a partnership or kids, whatever.
Yeah, but even with starting that family, when we bring up religion, or even as the same with politics, being on two sides of the spectrum with that as well, when people claim those to be Democrat, Republican, Independent, or you're liberal, wherever you stand, does that factor in as well? Because you may really, what we say, love this person and be in love, but then all of a sudden it's like, okay, hold on, take a step back. Like, where do you stand religious-wise? Where do you stand in your political preference? Is that going to play a part? Can you get past it?
I don't know. So I am, I guess, considered newlywed. So I feel like we have all three stages of this, right?
You are definitely newlywed.
You are
definitely newlywed.
Yeah. So we have somebody who's been married for over 20 years. We have, a newlywed, and we have Nicole, who's still single and ready to mingle, right? And you guys hit some really good points last time just about age difference and why that's important and why we do that. But a part of my journey after divorce and going out there was I needed to find somebody like-minded about my morals and my foundations. And that was my religion first, my relationship with God and Christ. Secondly was where you stand on just some really big moral society sort of topics.
Yes. And
just who you are as a person, as a family, how you are with your friends. And, and like all of those things play a big important role, because whether or not we choose to have children or not, like you guys talked about last week, we're going to be building something together. And if we're not on the same page,
right. No.
I mean, what are we doing, right?
So can you just briefly talk about how your first relationship, how those morals, you kind of weren't on the same page and how that impacted? Just share a little.
Yeah, so my first marriage lasted just shy of 7 years.
That's so long time.
Yeah, we met in college. great person, but again, you're young and
Mhm.
I there. And, and you're also in your 20s, right?
Yeah.
So you're just into shenanigans anyway. His family, Hispanic, they're from Ecuador. They were very devout Catholic. My background is Catholic and Presbyterian.
Mhm.
So I felt like we were, we definitely playing field with many things. The problem really was culturally.
Okay.
He was more like first generation American.
Mhm.
I think he had the BDE to withstand having to bring somebody in of a different culture.
Oh no.
And I mean, let's talk about it, right? Like if you're going to
Y'all know
bring
what
somebody,
BDE is. Y'all need to go Google.
right? And if you're going to bring someone in that's different, you have to be able to withstand, so.
I'm embarrassed. I don't know what BDE is.
Oh,
We're gonna
you're
have
going to
to
have
do
to
a
look it
lesson
up.
after
Yeah. I'm getting schooled here.
But, great person, lovely people, but really when it came to just accepting,
So it
My
wasn't
difference.
religion, it was cultural background.
it was cultural background.
What
and
about
a little,
politics?
he was flip-floppy.
Okay,
Mm.
so
And I can't handle that. Again,
Yeah,
it's that BDE.
right.
Like, whether you're right or wrong, you gotta, stand on it.
Right. I would say religion, some people can get past that just because they tend to say, well, okay, if they have kids, we'll bring up our kids with both, and then as they become adults, they can choose,
Mhm.
what they want, what they want to practice, and
Yeah.
what path they want to follow and what they want to choose. Politics is a little different because, like you said, I don't deal with flip flopping either. It's like you have to stand one way or the other, and not to say you have to choose a political party, but it's comes back to morals and standards.
Mhm.
Like you have to know where you are, what you want, and it's more so on the lines of I look at it, who's going to help me the most at that
Yeah.
moment in time?
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, for me, politics, everybody wants what's best for themselves, even regardless of what office you're running for.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm going to look at, well, who's going to help me the most? Who's going to help my family the most?
That's how it is in our family too. Like, Papi Chulo's been in law enforcement since we got married, and it was always like, who's going to be the best for our family? Like,
Mhm.
who's going to be supportive of law enforcement? Because
Right.
that's really what it came down to.
Right.
Who is going to help us have better lives?
Yep.
And as we've grown,
Mhm.
we also have learned that we cannot talk politics within family dinners. Like when, for example,
not
Christmas
like between
dinner.
you and him.
The
just-
four of us, we can talk about it. We
Uh-huh.
talk about it, and we give our share, our
Mhm.
views and stuff. But outside of the four nuclear of us, we're we don't talk about this outside
Okay.
because we can't. Because it's amazing how within the same family the viewpoints are.
Super
so
I
different.
mean, we have
Yeah.
diehard Democrats, diehard Republicans, people who are flip floppers.
Right.
You can't have a discussion.
No. And I think with just the climate that we're in, it's a double-edged sword, right?
Right.
So, when you're falling in love with someone and you're talking about where you see yourselves in 5 or 10 years, does politics really matter in that? Probably not. Voting is a personal thing.
Right.
But I think when big ticket items come up, it's hard. It would be hard for one person to say, I want to picket for this, and the other person say, well, I don't support that.
Right.
So that can bring up turmoil. And we all know in all stages of a relationship, it's very hard.
Okay, I'm the single one, so I can give my perspective on that, the question I'm about to ask, but asking for the newlywed and one who's been married for many, many years, forever. When would you bring it up to find out if they matched your religious background or your political stance to find out, prior to getting married? Or did it matter?
Right away.
Okay.
I agree. Well, last time we talked about this, communication
Correct.
is huge.
Oh, yeah.
Even been married as long as I'm always like, communication. Papi Chulo, you did not communicate with me. So and you, Miss Nicole, are very good about being open and communicating
She is.
what you want.
Sometimes we have to tell her, don't say the quiet parts out loud.
But I do agree that
people need to know the truth.
Yeah, well, but that's important.
It is.
In my own personal, I think politics is not going to make or break a relationship, but I feel religion can make or break, especially if you are having children involved.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's hard if you're a Christian, and obviously we all know what the center of that is. And then you have someone who believes in something completely different. That's very hard. And if you're both not willing to have that discussion ahead of time, you can't bring children. You can't keep bringing in other factors and then expecting that situation to go away, because it's not going to.
It won't.
In fact, it just amplifies it. It makes it hard.
Right.
So no, when I was totally against online dating. I did my fun in between my divorce and then, putting back on my big girl pants and going out there. It was scary. I think my first date, I got a bloody nose before I left the house.
Oh, no.
I was so nervous. Just to be so much, just to be vulnerable again.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is.
And, these streets are not kind.
Mm-mm.
Oh, Nicole, these streets aren't kind.
They are not.
To us in our in our years, right? So definitely went on dates, but on my profile, I did online. I gave myself 1 month. I paid for it. I did Match.com. It does work, but you have to do the vetting.
Right.
And I was so just no tolerance. On my profile, believe in Jesus. I need 35 to 45, okay, maybe some children, but I didn't have children from my previous relationship, which you find out is it's a factor then, right? Because now you start dating and you realize there's a little bit of drama, and it's not just you dating in this relationship, it's children, and it's the spouse or the significant other of the other person. So I found out very quick that I just did not want that.
That plays a huge part.
And I laid it out. My profile was so no nonsense, right? And men don't listen.
They don't. Absolutely.
Well,
and they don't
put their profiles no nonsense, because I know
better. Oh my
gosh. Very rare.
All of the situationships that I fell into, and I was like, sir, you were still living at home. With your ex-wife.
Or it'll be that we're separated, but
but
not
divorced. No, we are not doing that. I'm like, it is me and my dog in my home, okay? There is nobody else. Please.
Literally.
Yeah, no. But it was one of my things, was being a Christian. And I definitely said I had a little bit more conservative values. And I will tell you, let's put ethnicity into this, all right? I got definitely pinged a lot by Caucasian men that were in support of that. But then I definitely had some African-American Black men who were who gave me slack. And I'm like, again, sir, I don't know you. And you were in my DMs right now trying to, you're not even trying to get to know me. You're just trying to battle with me.
Correct.
And then it's what are we doing? So then that's how you, you pick through who's in here for just shenanigans. And then who's in here for seriousness.
Because they'll ask you about what is your religion, what is your political stance. They do ask about kids.
They do.
They do.
Yes,
they do all of that. And, I look at it all, because I didn't have some people pop up, I'm an atheist.
Yes! Oh my gosh. And you know what? There is a thing called, you are fresh meat, right? So there are people. So my now husband was on Match as well. And he had been on it for a while, on and off, right? And we did not match each other's, we didn't ping each other because of our age. So we're 10 years apart. So we were just on the outside of, of our age brackets that we put in there. And he saw that I liked his profile. I had viewed it. Yeah, I viewed it. So he comes sliding in and he's like, I saw you checked me out or whatever. And it was funny and it was cute. But there were people who I had clearly stated what my non-negotiables were. And then I would have a 65-year-old man who's an atheist. And I'm like,
no,
really?
No,
we're not, you can't read then.
Literally mine says Christian. Why are you I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I love him dearly. It says it in my in my profile write-up, why are you giving me a like? I don't understand.
Yeah. But I knew going in, just based off of prior relationships, that we needed to have fundamentally the right things.
Yes.
I didn't need him to be a registered anything. I just needed him to understand that, like, in the hierarchy of our family and what we were creating, there were like just non-negotiables, and this was what we were doing. And, Victoria knows, like, it's hard anyway, right?
Absolutely.
So
let me ask you this, though. If you hadn't gone through your first relationship, like, I feel like age is knowledge, right? Like, you learn as you go through relationships, you learn as you are dating men. Do you think you are where you are now because of that first relationship and what you learned from it? Or do you think you would have learned all that anyways?
Oh, 100% the first. Yeah. Like, you have to go through it in order to know what it is you really want in life.
To know what the non-negotiables
are.
Yeah.
And funny thing, we just had this conversation about children over the weekend. And, my husband now had said something to the effect of, I'm a little worried that you were so excited or wanted children so bad the first time, but now you're not as. And I said, it's not excitement, it's contentment.
Right.
Yeah.
It is having a full-on trust with somebody that without hindsight, the tears and the questions, all of those things that I did in the first marriage, I didn't realize that wasn't trust. It was a lack of trust.
Right.
And that came from having a flip-flop person who didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
So going the second time around, we asked the questions. We talked about the really important things straight off the bat. So we weren't wasting each other's time. I think that's really, and that's really like the whole sort of roundabout way of that whole conversation, right?
Right.
Is that you have to have the nitty-gritty talk.
Correct.
And is this his first marriage too?
Oh my gosh, yes, it is. So he has waited over 40 years to get married, only because he said he wanted to do it once. He didn't really believe in divorce.
Right.
It wasn't what he came, it wasn't what he came from.
I gotta understand it with him about that, because I am in the same, but I only want to do this one time.
Only want to do it once.
Like, I don't have time for the nonsense. I mean, I've been there where it's been talked about, almost jumped in and did it, and then I was like, something was like, just don't go down that pathway, because I almost did, and I was like, no, because when I get married, I'm not getting divorced. So I was like, I can't do this. And there were some factors even with religion that played a part. Politics wasn't really an issue for us because, like, our morals and stuff aligned. So neither one of us was like a diehard anything. It was kind of like what I mentioned before, what was best for my life, his life, and where we stood. Religion played a part because I am so into my faith and what I believe, and believing in God and being a Christian, and he was not. And we would go back and forth. Times I would go to church and he would not go, and sometimes he would come, and then it would be like a whole discussion about it, and it's like, well, why does this happen? And I would explain, and then it was just like the unbelief. And I just couldn't deal with that, because it's like, you can't not believe in this, and I believe. Yeah, I was like, that's too much of, it's too much. And it wasn't that I needed him to be where I was, but you have to believe.
Right.
And if you don't, like, you can't not believe. Yeah. So that's where we bumped in. And that's why I was like, I can't do it, because I know it wouldn't last. Like, it wouldn't work because
the only other time I think that it does work is when one person, so just based off of my own experience, my dad was not active in his faith, right? But my mother was. But he did not impede that. He was like, no, I want the children, go do it. So I think that, it works that way if one person is willing just to say they trust the other.
So didn't you go into your first marriage thinking, like, I'm only going to do this once? Like, I know most people do that, but I also feel like a lot of people go into it saying, like, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. We can just get a divorce.
Yeah. No, we both went in it thinking that.
And I think that's the right that's the right commitment, thinking like this is do or die, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
we're gonna do it.
Yeah, no, we had the cultural, we had the family sort of dynamic. His family, no one really married anyone that was not Catholic and not Hispanic. So were not those things. I came in as a biracial, woman and being
none of them boxes.
checked none. And I just thought, I really do think we were young and we thought that we could both withstand it. I had some growing to do, he did, but really when it came down to it, we weren't growing at the same pace, and he decided that it was better off doing what he needed to do. And I wished him, I wished him the best as I cried and went through it all, but it's a growth in there.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be where you are now if you hadn't gone through that.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, comes back to like everything happens for a reason too,
Yes.
right? Like I'm a firm believer in that, even though you don't understand why or what, but at the end of the day, you're like, okay, well, I had to do that in order for this to happen.
Yeah,
right. You gotta go through it.
You got to go through it, and then you never know that story. And if you come out on the other end of it, more times than not, you're the better person for it. And then you become like that success story or that inspirational story for somebody who's going through it at the time.
True.
I will never forget my mother actually said to me during all of this that like she looked up to me. And that was so just a beautiful thing to hear, because you think to yourself like, I'm supposed to be learning everything from you, but just for whatever reason, she saw grace in that brokenness, but getting back up again. So it's a testimony that they raised good people.
Right.
So you both have beautiful children, and that's a story. You got to keep.
They're
moving.
old enough; they're not for sale anymore.
I know.
At one point, there were.
The second time around, though, my dad's like, "This is final sale."
Literally.
Yeah.
But even speaking of like our kids, I mean, I was talking to my girl literally last night, and we were talking, and I asked her, and I said, do you believe in what like we've taught you? Do you believe in God? Like, do you believe that he needs to be in your life? Like, do you need to follow like what he tells us to do? And she was like, yes, I do. And I was like, but, and she was like, there's no but. And I'm like, okay. And we were talking because her grandparents wanted her to go with them to a church service. And she was like, but do I really have to go? And I said, well, what I told you to listen to, the church that I attend online, I said, what I told you, do you listen? Do you go and like watch? Do you allow it to, get ingrained into your heart and your soul and your mind and help you with choosing your morals and values as you're getting older? Because she'll be an adult soon. And she was like, well, no. And I said, well, then I think you should go. And I made her go. But I'm like, it's teaching them.
They have until they're 18 to make up their minds.
Right.
Until then, we can only do so much.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's what I did.
Yeah.
But you're laying a foundation, though, and that's what it's about. She's going to grow older in her own life experiences.
Correct.
For all three of these children, young adults in this world, they're going to go and they're going to make mistakes and whatever, but you're laying the foundation. And that's all I really feel religion is, no matter what you practice.
Right.
It's teaching them that there is a higher power.
Right.
And, to look within themselves, to have that moral compass,
No,
it's
true. And I just hope when it comes down to her and getting into a relationship, that she will remember what she has been taught. And a lot of it stems from our religion. And I'm like, I want you to remember, like, where it comes from, who is a part of your life, and who will always be there. I mean, mom will always be there, but I'm like, but God is really the one who has your back, and you have to remember that. So when you do start going down that pathway of relationships, that you remember what you've been taught, and keep an eye out on them, what we call red flags.
Yes.
Amen. Y'all. Amen.
This was a good topic.
Yes.
And I love that last week's kind of came in there full circle.
Look, I'm telling you.
I know.
It was so good having you on here, Chrissy.
Oh, you guys are so
Yay.
sweet. I hope I'm invited back.
You are
Always.
always welcome back.
Always. always welcome.
Always
I
welcome
listen to
back.
you guys when I'm driving into work, and I feel like I'm speaking through through my phone, through my radio.
I love it.
Thank
That's
you.
what we want. Well,
Thanks
this
for
was
coming.
awesome.
Thank
Yes,
you,
thank you
guys.
for coming. We will see y'all next week.
Adios.
Bye.
Ciao.